Good afternoon. Happy 4th of July to all of the dear, special, precious people on the tea table. Yes, we are. I can't believe we're already at the 4th, and it's warming up a little bit today, and I've got a little bit of a display here, and I am so happy you've joined me. And I'm wearing red, and I have white daisies in my hair and a little flag headband. And we are all celebrating America 249 years. Wow. Well, if you haven't gotten your tea, please pause and get your tea, and I will be waiting for you. Now, I went around my little china closets looking for Americana, and this is what I came up with. Well, I apologize. Let's remove that. Whoa, that's the British. That's my tea cozy, but I was keeping my tea warm. But we need to have American. So what I found was a very special teapot, and I have to show you. And it is wagon trains coming over the mountains to California. Isn't that amazing? It says wagon trail, they're coming. And then I thought, okay, for a cup, what do I do for a cup? And I think I have a little bee here. I have the Crinoline Girl, which is a Southern belle. The Crinoline Girl, isn't she darling? And the crinoline is the fabric. It's the fabric that would make those wonderful dresses that would come down and stand out. And of course, the designs were from France, and they would bring them over. Gone with the Wind is where you will really see the beautiful crinoline dresses. So we'll take our wagon train and going to pour out. There we have it. I'm playing little military music in the background. Hope it's not too loud. Splash of milk. I need this cup of tea today. I don't know about you. I've been busy. Oh my goodness, that is absolutely fabulous. Good black British tea. Now we know the American Revolution started with a tea party. Not quite like my tea parties here. Remember, the British were going to tax us, and we said no way. And so the Americans got on the ship and dumped all the tea in the harbor. Can you imagine how hard that was? Because they loved it. Would be like Americans now dumping Starbucks coffee in the bay when they weren't going to be able to have it for quite a while, because all the tea came from England. Well, of course it came from Africa, India, and the southern regions, North Africa, East Africa, all over where the sun shone, and South America, and the islands. But Britain had the ships, and they would buy it and put it in packages and bring it around the world. That's trade, right? Well, I have a little homemade banana bread, bran banana bread with walnuts, little muffins I made for you. Yes, I actually made them for my husband. He likes a bran muffin every morning. And I couldn't help but bring my little cherry napkins back because they're just, they're perfect, red, white, and blue. Well, I had a couple of other special cookies for you. But my little granddaughter came, Cambria, and I didn't realize she got in the box. These are plain cookies that you are supposed to frost, but they're so cool for 4th of July. The Liberty Bell. Now 3 of those survived without any bites taken out. So those 3 are on the bottom. But I had a whole box. Well, this is the flag, and there's her little bites out of it, and then she just put it back in. And here's the star. She took a bite of the star. I was going to make frosting for her to frost them, but I didn't get that far. I think now we'll just let people have the crumbles that are left here. I'm trying to organize this scarf so you can see I have on a necklace with birds, parrots, and I have earrings that are parrots. And I just think they work perfect for the 4th of July. They have touches of red, and I have been wearing these all summer. I had them for years in my drawer, and I kind of forgot about them, pulled them out, and it's interesting. People notice, young people really notice and love these earrings, so I've just kept wearing them. Well, America, we are approaching our 250th year. The big celebration will be next year, and I think we all should be thinking about it and make contributions, write a poem, a song, an article about America, talk to your children, your grandchildren. I'm thinking maybe I'm going to have my grandchildren try to memorize a poem, and I'll tell you what one I'm thinking about. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, The Midnight Ride of Paul Revere. Oh, well, he wrote so many poems. I love Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, and I thought we would talk just a little bit about him today. My husband said, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow is not just a poet. He is an institution. He is an amazing man. We decided, we were talking about that we love the poem, both of us, Hiawatha, and we love the poem Evangeline. Now those were much more than poems. They are long, epic stories. And if you've never read Hiawatha, it is so beautiful love story. Hiawatha, the Indian brave. Mimi Haha is the one he loves. And it talks all about the Indian, he was, I almost said Nathaniel Hawthorne because he's up in one of those New England poets too, but Henry Wadsworth Longfellow lived near the Indians, and he was so interested in them, and he studied them, and that's why he put a lot of things into poems regarding the Native Americans. But Evangeline is the story of the Acadias that were in Canada, and they had to leave. They were French, and they were given land in Louisiana, which was bayous, and it was swampland, crocodiles. But they went down and they redeemed the land from the sea, almost like what Holland did. And Evangeline is also a romantic poem, her true love, and he loves her and she loves him, and they never forget each other, and they never see each other. And well, I'm not going to wreck it. You need to read Evangeline. It's long. It's like a book, actually. But it's too beautiful. I don't want to tell you the whole story. No, it would spoil it. But I grew up, my mother would always read us poetry, and I remember Robert Louis Stevenson, his wonderful poems. And then, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow wrote The Children's Hour, and I wanted to bring it and read it to you today, but I forgot, and so I'm on the Tea Talk. I can't do it, but Look it up. It's short. It's so beautiful. The Children's Hour. And then The Clock in the Hall. He wrote about beautiful home life, and yet he was probably one of the most brilliant scholars America ever produced. At the age of 3, he went to school. He was precocious. He was brilliant. By the time he was 13, he was entering Harvard. He knew, I think, 6 languages by then. He knew Greek. He knew Hebrew. He studied the Romantic languages. Well, then he was given a professorship, and before he took the professorship, he was sent to Europe for a year or two to travel around and learn more languages. And he mastered German and French and Italian. And then he went on another trip and was fascinated by the Scandinavian languages. And he writes a whole poem about Finland. And he is amazing. And he has a beautiful heart, beautiful soul. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow is the one who wrote my favorite Christmas carol, which is I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day. Their old familiar carols play, and wild and sweet the words repeat of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Well, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow had a love life. He was a romantic, and he found a girl he really loved. Well, she wasn't interested in him, and then it went on and on. Finally, he did marry her, and she went with him on his journey to Europe. Sadly, she had a baby and miscarried and died on that trip. And he came back absolutely broken-hearted. He was so sad, and he did a lot of writing, and he just threw himself into his work. It was the only way he could remain even and sane, because he felt so bad. Well, then he met a man that had a wonderful family, and they kind of took him in and were so kind to him. And that man had a daughter, and she was quite young. But then Henry and her started having a very interesting relationship, and they were attracted to one another, and he married her. The father was very wealthy, and Henry had lived in 2 rooms, beautiful rooms. You can see it on a documentary if you want to look this up, where George Washington had stayed. And it was a historic house. Well, he loved it so much, and she loved it. She said, "Father, could you buy us that house?" So for their wedding gift, he bought them this beautiful home, and they lived in that their whole life and had, I believe, 6 or 7 children. And his youngest daughter is named Allegra. And I know someone that's on the tea table that has a younger daughter that lived in Connecticut, and they named their daughter Allegra after this beautiful girl. And this is our precious tea partner, Melanie. So I wanted to honor her, because she had told me, when you live in Connecticut, you can go visit all the homes. And I was talking to her daughter, Alexandra, my daughter-in-law, and she said they went to all the homes. They went to Emily Dickinson's home, I believe Nathaniel Hawthorne's home. Oh, I can't remember it. How wonderful. And so Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, that beautiful home that his father-in-law bought them, is now a historic museum site that you could visit if you can get back to New England. Many of you on this Tea Talk live in Washington State. We're about as far away from New England as you can get. But there are ways to get there. I've always wanted to go. I've driven from Toronto down to New York with a group of musicians when we sang once at Columbia University and then Messiah College in Pennsylvania. And it was summer, and I remember along the New York roads the June bugs. But that was all. I didn't see any of the Cape Cod or all the beautiful places. But we have beautiful sea here. Right behind me is the Puget Sound, which goes into the Pacific Ocean. Yes. Not that far from here. In fact, my husband and I drove down to Cannon Beach last Sunday. It was a beautiful day. One of those 90-degree gorgeous days where you just want to go and see the water. Well, Cannon Beach is so beautiful. Some people call it the Little Martha's Vineyard of the West Coast. And they didn't really try to copy it, but it's just a very nice, every building is, they have rules for their buildings. So everything, the flowers are so beautiful in Cannon Beach. I don't know who does their flowers. I was just, the hydrangeas are this big, and I wish my hydrangeas look like that. Oh my, it reminds me of Victoria, BC, the flowers in Cannon Beach. And we had dinner there, and then we looked at the water and looked at Haystack Rock, and the Pacific Coast is gorgeous. It's beautiful. And then driving home, you go over all the bridges, and you go over the bridge that has the Columbia River. Because remember, the Columbia River divides Washington and Oregon. And then the Columbia at Astoria goes into the Pacific Ocean. And Astoria is such a romantic town to me. It's Finnish, Scandinavian, all the boats, because that is where the sandbars are, and it's so dangerous. So many people died. And then a man came, Favel, and his mansion is there, and he had a gift. He had a boat called the Peacock. It was a pilot boat, and he could go out, and he knew how to guide the ships in so they wouldn't hit the sandbars. If a ship hit the sandbars in the wrong way, it was death. It was terrible, because those tides are moving between the Columbia River, the mighty Columbia, and the mighty Pacific. And it's right there it meets. So that's our little Washington state that has its unique, gorgeous beauty. And then you go by Seaside, and there's a statue of Lewis and Clark. And then there's all of the military installations, because this was the coast. Yes. We all live in lovely places. There's beauty in every part of America, and I think we need to find it. If we can't travel, find local beauty and rejoice in it, because the summer goes so fast. I just think this is such a beautiful pot, and it has a lady, cows, water, and then it has the wagon train coming through California. So I thought, that's Americana. And then my little crinoline girl, so sweet. Now, I think this china was made in England, but they did a lot of American scenes. I have some china that has Christopher Columbus. Then my friend Elizabeth has the Pilgrim china, beautiful, from England, and it's all that transferware and scenes of the Pilgrims and the Mayflower, and oh my goodness, the British were so creative making their china. Well, what are you doing for the 4th of July? This has been, for me, a unique one. Usually we have it here, but I have some company coming into town, some family, and they are staying out at my son's cabin, and so we're going to go out there to Union and have the 4th out there. And it's beautiful there. In fact, tonight, July 3rd, the Alderbrook Inn, it used to be Bill Gates, puts on all over the Hood Canal the beautiful firework display. They do it on the 3rd, and everyone can see it. It's so high, so you don't have to be all the way down in Union to see it. You can, so that will be fun. And so I am kind of amazed. I'm used to having people here and doing, but this year I guess I'm getting a little break, and so I will bring some food along, but I'm not having to carry the full load. So that will be interesting. But I love when we have company here on the 4th too. It's always very nice. It just gets a little crazy with the firecrackers and the bay, because I have sons, though they are now, it doesn't matter how old, they still like firecrackers, and I am just not a firecracker person, but I just have to pray, hold my breath, and fortunately no one has ever been hurt, thank God, because some of those things are dangerous. They really are. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and think about our beautiful American poets. And I know the reason we were studying, my husband and I got into Henry Wadsworth. I got into it through him, because he's teaching on the Psalms, and he was talking about, the rhythm of the Psalms and the different iambic, hexameter, and what Henry Wadsworth Longfellow used, these most unique. And next time maybe I'll bring my sheet and give you the names. I don't want to give them improperly, but I know that Hiawatha has a completely different rhythm than Evangeline, and to keep the rhythm through the whole poem, it takes a brilliance, doesn't it? Yes. And Queen Victoria loved Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. He had an audience with her. He met Charles Dickens. They became friends. And he is one of the few Americans. His bust is in Poets' Corner in Westminster Abbey. Isn't that special? And so to study poetry is rich, because my husband was talking about the Hebrew in the Psalms. It's different than our poetry. It's parallelism, and it's rhyming of thought, not necessarily the rhyming of words. It's rhyming of thought, or comparison, or reiteration. And I'll get that for next time, because I think it's something worth studying. And I know we all had touches and bits of it growing up in our English classes and English literature classes. But sometimes it's hard to understand the way people explain it. But it's not as complicated as we think if we take it one step at a time. And that has been my goal with the tea table. And I appreciate all of you. And I do have, for those who like a purse, a special purse for the 4th of July. Is that the most perfect one you could imagine? Red and white. And then you could put a little blue scarf on it, or just leave it. And it's very fun. It would be fun to have some china that had flags on it. I don't know if they've ever made it. I've never seen anything. Britain has a lot of china with flags and, their British symbols, but I have never seen a red, white, and blue flag on a piece. But that would be fun. Something for someone to create. If one of you are making pottery or something, would be fun. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I pray you all have a beautiful 4th of July with your family, with your friends. And if you are alone, try to be with someone else on the 4th, at least for a while. have a little picnic together or a cup of tea. It's nice to celebrate. Well, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. Push the notification bell and you'll be notified, and share. And then you can also, if you liked it, give a like. And I love your comments. And please share with others, because this tea talk is for everyone. Happy, blessed 4th of July. And thank God, I thank God for America. And I say, God bless America.